Imagine the smallest thing you can think of. Now, imagine something a million times smaller. You're getting close to an atom, the tiny building block of everything in the universe, from the stars in the night sky to the very cells in your body. For a long time, we thought these atoms were the smallest possible things, indivisible and eternal. But in the early 20th century, a handful of brilliant minds, people like Marie Curie and Albert Einstein, began to suspect there was something more, a secret hidden deep within the atom's core, its nucleus. They were on the verge of uncovering a power source unlike any other known to humanity. This wasn't just a simple discovery. It was a fundamental shift in our understanding of reality itself. Scientists found that the atom wasn't a solid ball, but a miniature solar system, with electrons orbiting a dense center. And that center, the nucleus, held an astonishing amount of energy. Einstein's famous equation, E=mc², gave us the recipe. It told us that mass and energy are two sides of the same coin. You could, in theory, convert a tiny amount of matter into a tremendous burst of energy. This wasn't the gentle fire of a log or the chemical reaction of dynamite. This was tapping into the very fabric of the cosmos. The key to unlocking this power was a process called nuclear fission. Think of it like a cosmic game of billiards played with unimaginably small particles. If you could shoot a tiny particle, a neutron, at the nucleus of a specific kind of atom, like uranium, you could make it split. When it split, it released a few more neutrons and a whole lot of energy. Those new neutrons could then fly off and hit other uranium atoms, causing them to split, releasing more neutrons and more energy. This chain reaction, a cascade of splitting atoms, could unleash a force of unbelievable magnitude, a power that could light up a city or, in the wrong hands, cast a permanent shadow. This new knowledge placed humanity at a profound crossroads. The same atomic process that could potentially power our world with clean, limitless energy also held the potential for unparalleled destruction. It was a discovery born from pure curiosity, from the human drive to understand the universe and our place within it. But as the world marched toward the greatest conflict it had ever known, World War II, this cosmic insight would soon be pulled from the realm of theoretical physics and thrust onto the world stage, changing the course of history and the fate of our civilization forever. As war engulfed the globe, this abstract science took on a terrifying urgency. Scientists who had fled persecution in Europe, including Albert Einstein, feared that Nazi Germany might be the first to turn the power of the atom into a weapon. They wrote a letter to the President of the United States, Franklin D. Roosevelt, warning him of this dreadful possibility. The letter explained that a single bomb of this new type could destroy an entire port. This warning launched one of the most secret and ambitious scientific efforts in history, the Manhattan Project. It was a race against time, a monumental undertaking to build a nuclear weapon before the enemy could. Thousands of the brightest scientists, engineers, and workers gathered in hidden cities built from scratch, like Los Alamos in the New Mexico desert. They were united by a common goal, yet many were haunted by the ethical implications of what they were creating. They worked tirelessly, solving one incredibly complex problem after another. They had to figure out how to enrich uranium and produce plutonium, the specific materials needed for a chain reaction. They had to design a device that could trigger this reaction in a fraction of a second, releasing its catastrophic energy all at once. It was a venture into the unknown, manipulating the fundamental forces of nature for the purpose of war. On July 16, 1945, in a remote desert location, they tested their creation. The Trinity test unleashed a light brighter than 1,000 suns, followed by a shock wave that rattled windows over 100 miles away. A mushroom-shaped cloud, an icon of the new atomic age, billowed tens of thousands of feet into the sky. The scientists who witnessed it were struck with a mixture of awe and terror. They had succeeded. They had harnessed the power of the stars. But in doing so, they had also created a weapon with the power to end human civilization. The world had been changed forever, even though most of its inhabitants didn't know it yet. Just a few weeks later, the world learned of this new power in the most devastating way possible. In August 1945, the United States dropped 2 atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, bringing World War II to an abrupt and horrifying end. The bombs leveled the cities, instantly ending the lives of tens of thousands and leaving many more to suffer from the effects of radiation. The world looked on in shock. The atom had been split, the war was over, But a new, more profound fear had just been born. Humanity now possessed the means of its own annihilation, a shadow that would stretch over all subsequent generations. The end of World War II did not bring the lasting peace everyone had hoped for. Instead, it marked the beginning of a new kind of conflict, a chilling rivalry between the world's two new superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. This was the Cold War. It wasn't fought with traditional armies on battlefields, but with spies, political maneuvering, and most importantly, the threat of nuclear weapons. For a few short years, America was the only country with the bomb. But that monopoly didn't last. In 1949, the Soviet Union successfully tested its own atomic bomb, and the nuclear arms race had officially begun. What followed was decades of escalating tension. Both sides began stockpiling thousands of nuclear weapons, each one more powerful than the last. They developed hydrogen bombs, which were hundreds of times more destructive than the bombs dropped on Japan. They built missiles that could fly across continents in minutes and submarines that could launch them from the silent depths of the ocean. This terrifying strategy was known as mutually assured destruction, or MAD. The logic was simple. If either side launched an attack, the other would have enough time to launch its own, ensuring that both nations would be completely destroyed. It was a peace held together by a thread, a balance of terror. Generations grew up under the shadow of the mushroom cloud. Children practiced duck and cover drills in schools, hiding under their desks as if that could protect them from a nuclear blast. Families built fallout shelters in their backyards, stocking them with canned goods and water. The fear was a constant, low-level hum in the background of everyday life. The world held its breath during moments of crisis, like the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962, when the US and the Soviet Union came perilously close to a full-scale nuclear war. For 13 days, the fate of the world hung in the balance, resting on the decisions of a few leaders. This era fundamentally changed global politics and the human psyche. The existence of these weapons meant that a total war between major powers was no longer survivable. It forced a new kind of caution upon world leaders, but it also fueled proxy wars in smaller countries and created an atmosphere of deep mistrust that permeated international relations. The immense resources poured into building these arsenals could have been used to fight poverty, cure diseases, or explore the cosmos. Instead, they were dedicated to maintaining a fragile, terrifying peace, a standoff where the price of failure was the end of the world as we knew it. The end of the Cold War in the early 1990s brought a collective sigh of relief. The immediate threat of a global nuclear holocaust seemed to recede. The United States and Russia began to dismantle parts of their enormous arsenals through treaties like START, the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty. It felt like the world was stepping back from the brink. For the first time in decades, a future free from the daily fear of nuclear annihilation seemed possible. This period marked a significant shift, a move away from the logic of mutually assured destruction and toward a new focus on cooperation and disarmament. The shadow had not vanished, but it had certainly lightened. However, the story of nuclear weapons did not end there. While the two original superpowers reduced their stockpiles, other countries developed or sought to develop their own nuclear capabilities. The nuclear club, once exclusive, slowly expanded. This created new and complex challenges for global security. The danger was no longer just a standoff between two giants, but a more unpredictable world, where the risk of a regional conflict escalating to a nuclear exchange, or the possibility of these weapons falling into the hands of non-state actors, became a growing concern. The challenge of controlling nuclear weapons had simply changed its shape, not disappeared. In response, people all over the world continue to work tirelessly for a safer future. International organizations like the United Nations and the International Atomic Energy Agency, or IAEA, work to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons and to promote the peaceful use of nuclear energy. They conduct inspections and encourage countries to sign treaties like the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, which is a global commitment to stop the spread of these weapons. Citizen-led movements and grassroots organizations raise awareness, protest against the existence of nuclear arsenals, and remind world leaders of their profound moral responsibility to protect humanity from this self-made threat. We live in a remarkable moment in cosmic history. We are a species that has unlocked the secrets of the atom and gazed into the heart of the stars. We have the power to create a brilliant future for ourselves, to explore our universe, and to solve the great challenges of our time. We also hold the power to leave nothing behind but a scorched and silent planet. The choice, as always, is ours. The history of nuclear weapons is a sobering reminder of our capacity for both brilliant discovery and devastating self-destruction. The path forward requires wisdom, cooperation, and a shared commitment to choosing the stars over the scars.